So guys, we've got more realignment stuff. We've got Baylor's head coach coming out and admitting they're pursuing more expansion, possibly those 4 Pac-12 teams we've referenced. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into Gene Smith making a crazy statement about Big Ten future scheduling. It's going to change. He's hinting at a 20-team Big Ten conference. But this coming from Baylor's head football coach, I know there's still opportunity in our league for expansion and potential suitors. I think that's pretty real, and that's kind of happening right now. There's talks that are happening right now, so this is all public. You know, you would have to think if they're talking about this in the open, there's a pretty good chance that Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado will be joining the Big 12, and it'll probably be public sometime in the near future. Of course, we heard the Big 12's commissioner come out and say, we're open for business. We want to be aggressive on the expansion front. This is all public. And it really is not surprising to see this. We've got Arizona's AD coming out and saying that the University of Arizona is in a strong, solid position among the realignment rumors. And this was a very interesting quote. We are strong, we're solid. This institution will be in the right place. I am also very confident in the Pac-12 with its current membership of 10 now. Again, we still have 2 years before those other 2 institutions leave, but we've got to be planning and orchestrating and be ready to pivot and do the right things. So he's talking out of both sides of his mouth there. He says he loves where the Pac-12 currently is, and then he says we got to be talking to other people, and if certain things happen, we will be leaving. So he's basically hinting at possibly leaving the conference, in my opinion, with a quote like that, saying they're going to pivot. And I'm guessing Arizona has been one of the rumored schools that is also talking to the Big 12 as well. And then this was the major thing with Gene Smith. According to Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith, the Big Ten will no longer schedule conference games more than a year in advance. The Big Ten is also in talks to eliminate divisions and could also consider moving to a 10-game conference schedule. Guys, I think I was really the first person to bring this up. And to me, if they're already hinting and they're already saying, listen, you know, we're thinking about a 10-game conference schedule, that tells me they really want the 20-team conference. And the format would be a 10-game in-conference schedule, and it would be a 2-game non-conference schedule. And you would also have elimination of divisions, and I think it would be a pod-based division format with a totally West Coast pod if the expansion happens to 20 teams. Remember, I was one of the first, if not the first people to come out and say, I think we're going to 10-game conferences if we get the 20-team super conferences. It looks like once we get the 20-team super conferences, the 10-game conference schedule will be implemented, at least in the Big Ten. And we know the SEC is simply waiting for the playoff to get expanded before they finally get their in-conference schedule to 9 games and hopefully get some more money from ESPN because they'll have one more meaningful in-conference game. Overall, more content and things like that. But this is major stuff. One of those changes has already been agreed upon, according to Gene Smith. While the conference has historically set its conference game schedules a year in advance, Smith says that will no longer be the case, as Big Ten officials have decided that conference schedules for the following year will now be set sometime in October. And this is absolutely the right move. I'm sure some people don't know this, but the Big Ten had set their conference schedules, meaning the exact date of when each game is, like 3 years in advance. I don't know why they did it like that. I guess it was for formatting or something, but it was really excessive with how overboard they went. Now they're kind of doing it like the SEC, like other conferences. They're setting it just a year in advance instead. Because, a year ago, you would have been able to see Ohio State's 2024 conference schedule and the exact date of every game. Basically. So this is an overall good thing. Obviously, that schedule is now void because of the USC and UCLA edition. It's also possible, Smith said, that the Big Ten could eventually increase its conference schedule from 9 to 10 games. Although Smith said he would prefer a decrease to 8 conference games, that is no longer an option because of the inventory that has been promised to Fox, CBS, NBC, and Peacock in the new TV deal. But he believes the Big Ten will have conversations about a possible 10-game conference schedule. Quote, we'll probably talk about 10 again. And again, I think the reason they're talking about 10 is because they're assuming they're going to have a 20-team super conference, which at that point it would make sense to have 10 conference schedules. So you're at least facing basically half, if not a little bit more than half, of your conference every year, depending on if you make the Big Ten championship game. It just makes more sense to format it like that, and it gives more inventory, especially, I've kind of had a theory that ESPN, if the Big Ten adds the 4 teams from the West, ESPN would want to get back in with a TV deal, renegotiation with the Big Ten, and try and take the big night game, 10 o'clock game, whether it's like Michigan State at Washington, Ohio State at UCLA, something like that, a 10:30 really late game. I don't know how they're going to do that exactly, because like putting Ohio State on at 10:30 is kind of counterproductive, considering the fan base, that's a late start. I'm sure most people would stay up and watch it, but still, I'm not sure how they're going to. Remember, we've never seen anything like this where you have 2 teams in the same conference with a 3-hour time difference. So it's really weird. But overall, I could see ESPN with even more inventory at the disposal of the Big Ten. If they add 4 more Western schools, you've got that 10 o'clock late night window that would be jam-packed with great games every single week. And we know ESPN has been dying. The one reason they really want the Pac-12 is for that extra 4th window that we all talk about on the college football Saturdays. You've got the noon, the 3:30, the 7:30, and then the 10 o'clock, which has been exclusively limited to the Pac-12. That's obviously going to change with USC and UCLA coming to the Big Ten, and maybe even more now coming to the Big Ten, to where we could see the Pac-12 dissolve, and now you're changing it to Big Ten after dark instead of Pac-12 after dark. That is something that ESPN could be doing. But guys, right now, there's a lot of moving pieces. Again, the most likely scenarios, it's basically the Pac-12 getting dissolved. That, to me, the next big thing, because you've got the 2 huge dominoes. We've got several people within the Big 12 publicly stating, listen, we want to expand. We've got Baylor's head coach saying expansion is coming. We're currently talking to schools as we speak. We've got Arizona's AD being real coy, saying that he likes, the Big 12 the Pac-12 situation, but he's open to different deals. So to me, this all aligns. Like the next dominoes, you've got the West Wing from the Big Ten, which would destroy the Pac-12 because it would include Oregon and Washington. And then you've got the 4 teams that have all been rumored for such a long time: Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, going to the Big 12. And that would also include Washington State and Oregon State going to the Mountain West. That is the most likely realistic scenario. From these statements, from everything I can gather, there's been rumors for months about Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State meeting. We're seeing all these different quotes. It really looks like it's forming, it's materializing, and you put everything together. All the puzzle pieces are coming together when Gene Smith talks about a 10-game conference schedule. How do you get a 10-game conference schedule? Theoretically, you would need, you would want 20 teams in your conference. That would be one reason you go to the 10-game conference schedule. You get more inventory for ESPN in a renegotiation deal, to where now the late night window has 4 possible great games. Oregon playing at home against a Big Ten team. Washington playing at home against a Big Ten team. UCLA playing at home against a Big Ten team. USC playing at home against a Big Ten team. All in that 10:30 window. And it is the one super conference where the Big Ten wants a stranglehold of every window, including that late night window. That's why they want the West Wing, along with the ability to mitigate the travel issues, because you would balance the conference a lot better. So it's noon on big noon. So Fox at noon, 3:30 is CBS, 7:30 is NBC, 10:30 is ESPN. That's what they want, in my opinion. This is just me speculating. That's what they want. How does the SEC counter that? I don't know. I think what the Big Ten has done is genius. They're taking strangleholds of every TV window. That's why they got in bed with NBC and CBS. So now the big 3:30 CBS game is a Big Ten game. The 7:30 NBC primetime game, we know how great NBC's Sunday Night Football product is. They got the 7:30 game now as well. I'm sure ESPN and ABC, they're going to fire back. My theory is they're going to actually take the Big 12, and if the ACC ends up dissolving, they will just turn the ACC network into the Big 12 network, and they'll just do a pivot. And the Big 12, I mean, you can call it a super conference if it gets to 20 teams. Obviously, it's not going to be the level of the Big 10 and the SEC, so it's hard to call it a super conference. The reason I would call it a super conference is just due to it having 20 teams. That's why I would, and it's a way to format it to where there's 3 big conferences now in college football, and they all have 20 teams in them. So this is just a lot of speculation based on everything we've heard. I know some people are out there arguing the Big Ten is going to add ACC teams. The only way I see the Big Ten adding ACC teams is if they expand to 24 teams. I think if it's 20 teams, it's going to be a West Wing, West Coast additions. That's my opinion. But I do understand the people that say North Carolina is a great fit in the Big Ten. They are. Virginia is a great fit in the Big Ten. They are. There are schools in the ACC that fit the Big Ten extremely well, but it's just a situation where they've already gotten in bed with 2 teams from the Pac-12. I really think they want some form of balance. And then the whole idea of, if you get to 20 teams, does it dilute the overall payouts? Would Ohio State, would Penn State, would Michigan be okay with diluting their payout some? Because now you got to pay 20 teams, and how would the pay structure look like? That's an argument for another day. I really don't want to get into that right now, and that's the whole unequal revenue distribution. But guys, right now, we know several people have publicly come out within the Big 12 and said, listen, we want to expand. We're not making the same mistake the Pac-12 did last year. We're going to step on their throats, and they're probably going to dissolve. That's what the Big 12 is saying. They're talking, and the most realistic scenario is those 4 teams from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, and also you've got possibly 4 teams from the Pac-12 to the Big 10, depending on what Notre Dame's going to do. What I do know is I know Oregon and Washington are definitely going to the Big 10. That's what I know right now, guys. Okay, Oregon and Washington will be in the Big 10. It makes too much sense. There's too many hints. Why is Oregon and Washington, why do they want no exit fee? They want no exit fee because they know when the Big 10 is ready, they will get the invite, and they want to leave the Pac-12 with no exit fee. And they're obviously not interested in the Big 12. They think that, and they know they're getting in the Big 10. So they're going to make so much more money in the Big 10. There's no reason for them to be interested in the Pac-12, even if they have to wait an extra year to get into the Big 10. They are going to wait, and we're going to have Oregon and Washington in the Big 10, and then one of, if not both, Stanford and California. And that depends on Notre Dame's decision. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.